Thank you for joining me today at A Touch of Blue Studio with Drawing with Grandma. Today's demonstration is kind of unique, but I think an important lesson as far as sketchbook work. I love to use masterpieces and sculpture to practice drawing people and animals, and sometimes it really helps to use famous work and people who really knew the human body and animals. And so I like to just sit and draw for practice, marble sculptures, and it helps me with the human form and my pencil work. But today I want to show you in your sketchbook how to work from James Audubon, who is a famous illustrator of birds. And so you've probably heard of Audubon. He's a naturalist who lived more than 100 years ago. But he studied birds and nature in their natural settings. And today I really wanted us to begin a work by him. So I am looking at one of his beautiful drawings. It's actually a painting, but he does it so skillfully as a drawing first. And this hawk is in a really beautiful position. And what he liked to do as an artist is he didn't just draw a posed picture. He always put the bird in a very active position. He was actively hunting, or he's actively just doing what he does. And so that was just something that he was really good at capturing, was natural life for these creatures. So as you can see, he's really stretched out, and it's kind of hard to see what he's doing, but he's actually perched on a branch. And so I needed to draw the oval head and the long oval body as I added that wing shape, which is like a long oval within the body oval, and then extended that tail shape. The beak has a hooked shape, and I might need to erase it and just kind of make it a little bit smaller, but I'm going to look and see if I need to once I get the head shaped the way I want. So I'm putting this claw and making sure I get this other leg right. It's not easy to do these claws, and we have a tendency to make the legs too wide and thick, but they're very delicate, very strong, but very thin. So I think I've got it correct, and his claws are grasping this branch, and it looks like he's about ready to take off. And so he's kind of lurching, and he's ready to spread his wings and take off. And so I hope you will look at a book by John James Audubon, this naturalist who was just a master draftsman. And a draftsman is a word for someone who's just so skilled at drawing in realistic ways. And so I'm going to begin now with kind of developing the final lines and some shading, and then trying to form the patterns. Again, on these wings is a challenge, but we just kind of want to suggest some of the patterns and the unique design that are so beautifully demonstrated in animals and birds and fish. So I want to make sure that I have his feet look as if they're grasping this branch. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow and some texture underneath his belly where the light's not hitting as strong. He has some line patterns. His beak, I think, is correct. I think if I add a little shading, it's going to look more correct for that particular kind of bird. These feathers on his head laid nicely and very smoothly, so I want to create that effect. Not a lot of jagged lines, but more smoothly laid lines. Now comes the really hard part, which is kind of developing the form and design that are all over these wings. You can see that I put a little bit of pattern in his tail and on the edge and tips of the wings on the left, but this inner wing, I need to kind of make sure that I get that correct and some of these patterns laid in. It's a lot of pencil work, but it's really good practice to study the bird. And I think John James Audubon's work is really helpful because it's so realistic that you don't have a bird in front of you. So the best way are really good photographs that are free to use by photographers, but also artists that have learned to capture realistic images of nature. So I'm going to finish this guy up, and now I want to sketch another one of these same birds, but he's in a different position. So I'm going to create just his head, and he's going to be looking the other direction. But it's really good practice to try to shape the head of an object or an animal in different positions. So this guy, we're looking a little bit more at the top. So again, I'm starting with the oval. And then as I come and form that eye, I go right out into the beak. And I need to find the middle of his head first. There we go. And then make sure that head is shaped correctly. And then I reestablish that center line that will take me right out to the beak form. His cheek is there. Okay, here we go. I think I'm ready to do the beak. His beak is slightly open, and so I am going to first do the top beak, and the tip is dark, but the upper half is light. And then there, we've got it a little bit open there. And okay, I think we've got that correct. We might have to just go back with some detail. There's a little glimmer in his eye, and I want to capture that. Gives him a little life and helps with the expression and the mood, which is, you know, he's fierce looking, but absolutely gorgeous. And okay, and this hood of his, just beautifully laid hair or feathers, and we want to create that illusion of that smooth, shiny head. He has a little bit of a mask around his eyes and a lot of dark value that help to form that three-dimensional shape. Okay, a little bit more on the beak and that'll be it. So I hope you have enjoyed this lesson and that you will really try to find books that are helpful and that you can look at some of the masters who have done amazing work at capturing nature and realistic form so that you can study and learn to draw accurately. I think it's fun to be creative, but it's also fun to learn how to see and observe nature. Thank you so much for joining me today with Drawing with Grandma at A Touch of Blue Studio.